I didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor with me? I'll be your captain. I'm Steve Harrington.
And I'm Collin.
And I'm Whitney, and this is Scoops Ahoy, a Stranger Things podcast where we go week by week, chapter by chapter, taking a look at every single episode of Stranger Things. We have now made it through all 4 seasons, just waiting in the deep dark void for season 5, like we've said for the past year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be another year.
Yeah, year plus. Yep. Yeah, we got a good at least 9 months ahead of us at least.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just not a lot. I mean, at least we're getting some content with the photos from the set popping up every now and then, and people are getting super excited to see them back in action.
Yeah, that's also kind of neat to see. I haven't seen it yet, but I know Joe Keery's in a new movie called Marmalade, which I want to see. And I was also going to mention that Millie's Damsel movie is coming out on Friday, March 8th on Netflix. So it's kind of fun to see them doing other things. I mentioned I saw David Harbour in the Gran Turismo movie and stuff. So it's kind of
in the what?
The Gran
Turismo.
Turismo. Torino was Clint Eastwood. Yeah, Turismo.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to see those things too. But I mean, in all fairness, I really don't want a lot of spoilers. I mean, I'm fine with like trailers and stuff like that, but I really don't want to have some like paparazzi person get a picture of, Steve Harrington's dead body or something because he gets killed.
I'm torn. Like, it was super exciting to be a part of like the when I got the screeners.
Yeah,
it was super exciting to get the stuff early, but then I did kind of feel like I missed out one of like all the hype of when everyone was like getting pumped up to watch it.
Right. Yeah.
The night, when it came out. Cause I remember when season 3 came out, we woke up, Evie and I woke up at like,
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. We woke up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
To watch it. Like, cause we were so excited cause it came out on July 4th weekend. And but so it was kind of different. It was a different kind of excitement. Like when I got to, it kind of like, it was exciting to get it before everybody else, but it also kind of sucked because I couldn't really talk about it.
Right. True.
Yeah.
I
could only talk about it with other people that had screeners, which was like me and Lauren.
Right.
That I knew. So.
Yeah. You didn't even tell me anything. So yeah.
No, I can't. Netflix will kill me.
I know. The only other thing I wanted to mention off the top before we get going is First Shadow, the play, was awarded Best New Play in England at the UK What's on Stage Awards, which I thought was kind of cool. So,
you know how I feel about this play.
I know. I'd like to see it at some point someday, but I got to imagine that it's gonna make it over here at some point. But I don't know.
Until it does, I'm bitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dying to see it, but it'd be kind of fun to see it and see what they did with it. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about Stephen King's influence on Stranger Things. We're doing another influence episode, but instead of focusing on just one movie like we do, or we did the Indiana Jones trilogy, but usually it's just one movie, but we're kind of talking about all of Stephen King's work, his books and the movies that came about as a result of him.
Mm-hmm.
And the Duffers have said right off the top that the two Stevens, Spielberg and King, were, their main influence. I think Matt Duffer was quoted once as saying that growing up, Stephen King was such an inspiration. He's like a god to them.
Oh, yeah.
And
that was like the first thing that I remember when I watched it for the first time was the font. And I was like, that is Stephen King's font that they're using.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like immediate. It's like one of those things where immediately that it is one of the
I remember that too, because
biggest influences.
And being called Stranger Things, which was very close to Needful Things, which was, one of his books, obviously. But actually, I went through and kind of, among everything else that I was kind of looking up about this, I found an article about how they, did decide on the font and how it was inspired by Stephen King. So we'll post a link to that in our socials so you guys can see that. But yeah, if you go back and look at Needful Things and
it's the same
Carrie and different seasons, Cujo, Misery. It's usually his name is in the font, or the book title is in the font.
I know
or,
the title
both,
for
so.
Needful, because I remembered I wrote an article about Stephen King's influence on the show, and I was like just pulling it up to see what I mentioned, and it in the Needful Things, uh, the fonts are the same for both titles, and
Right.
I think it is for Carrie too.
Yeah, yeah. But his name on, because like Cujo was like kind of the blood splatter Cujo kind of red
Oh
kind of
yeah,
scroll, but his name is in the font, at the
yes.
top of the book. So, but anyway, we'll post a link to that. So, but going back to the Duffers, so obviously we talked about the show Bible in our last episode when they did Montauk. And in it, they said Montauk has the horror of the crackling clown in It, the friendship and adventure of Stand By Me, obviously both Stephen King properties. Emotional, cinematic, and rooted in character, Montauk is a love letter to the golden age of Steven Spielberg and Stephen King, a marriage of human drama and supernatural fear. And then they actually included Matt and
Ross.
thank you. His name just completely flew right out of my head. Matt and Ross. I was like, Matt and Jeff? That's not Jeff. What is the hell's his name? Matt and Ross. Included pictures of still photos from Firestarter and Stand By Me in the Bible as kind of inspiration, along with, Close Encounters and other things like that. So, but as far as Stephen King things go. And then in the actual show itself, there's obviously oodles of inspiration, and we'll get to that. But Stephen King is actually name checked in episode 6 of season 1 when Hopper and Joyce go see Becky, and she's kind of telling them all about all of the MK Ultra stuff and what Terry Eyes got into. So here's that clip, so you guys remember that.
You read any Stephen King? You guys look scared, actually. I mean, it's all make believe.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the clip of when she's telling the whole story, it's kind of flashing back to all of Elle's stuff when she was in the lab.
See all
and
this
she killed,
stuff.
but that was obviously when she has the brain things on and the cat. So that's what that you just saw the clip. So, and then I also thought it just kind of hit me at one point that the whole thing with King Steve being kind of his nickname in the first season, at least it kind of died off after that.
You think that was
kind of like a twist on
yeah,
twist to Steve King, King
think it
Steve.
was?
I don't know. It's very close,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it absolutely is, and they have never confirmed it, but it's one of those things that's kind of too close to not have at least been thought about at some point. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we went through and we did kind of our top 5 ways that Stephen King, or that we see that Stephen King influenced Stranger Things. So I thought coming in at number 5, because it's kind of there, but it's not, it's not overwhelming like some of the other ones that we'll have later in the list are, was The Shining. And, a lot of people point to the sauna test episode when Billy kind of breaks through the sauna glass.
That's what I think of.
Is kind of like,
here's
Jack
Johnny.
Torrance, Jack Nicholson, here's Johnny coming through. But I actually thought of it more when Bruce breaks through the glass door at the hospital when he's chasing after Nancy and Jonathan. And he does his, hi there, thing when he comes through, which seemed closer to me, but it's still kind of the same idea of somebody breaking through a door or whatever, and kind of being, hi there. And then Dacre actually said in an interview once that his performance was influenced by Jack Nicholson in The Shining. He said some of the characters that he plays, like his character in The Shining, for example, was what was tossed around a lot with the Duffers coming into season 2, but I think more so with Jack's unpredictable choices that make him an interesting actor. In the second season, Dacre says, I like to think that we started to introduce some of that, but in the third season, it truly becomes more of his character in The Shining. It was extremely fun to play with and very powerful. So, he was, obviously.
Well, and it showed him like struggling with like the influence of the mind flayer or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Forcing him to do this stuff because he would like have moments where he kind of came back to himself, like, Jack did, like he knew he was losing it. Yeah.
It was kind of like the gradual, losing it, but, not just, straight like mental deterioration. There was something going
Right.
on that was causing him to lose it. So
Yeah.
The Shining comes in at number 5.
And number 4, we have Carrie, which we already talked about a little bit with the font, but obviously the whole telekinetic powers with Carrie and her mom, like that's very reminiscent, or Elle is very reminiscent of
Right.
Carrie's powers. The whole when she gets the milkshake poured on her in season 4 by, I forgot that girl's name.
Amanda. Why do I want to say Amanda? Is that the actress's name? Why are we like completely
No,
spacing out?
I don't know.
We're completely spacing out on people's names. It's hilarious. What the heck?
Angela.
Angela. Thank you.
Oh gosh.
I was
Yes,
close with Amanda, but yeah.
you were. So Angela, she pours the milkshake
Yeah.
on her. That's very similar to how Carrie was bullied.
It is kind of
because-
funny because whenever I do like go back and rewatch the show, but I always start at season 1, and I think I've only seen season 4 like 4 or 5 times or something like that. I really need
I've
to
only
go.
seen season 4 once.
Yeah, I need to go back and I need to start at season 4 and kind of go backwards because I always go through season 1 and kind of leave it there.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
then you have the whole, sorry.
no, I was going to play the clip from the Duffers talking
Oh, yeah.
about Carrie. So here's Matt and Ross talking about how Carrie was directly influenced.
In Carrie, of course, you have a high school girl who has these amazing powers and these amazing abilities. And we always looked at how King dealt with that when we talked about 11 and this idea. She has these amazing abilities, but is she ultimately dangerous, especially when she's with these kids and we see her when she hurts Lucas out in the junkyard. And we sort of see that these powers aren't necessarily fully under her control, or that she can lose control, and when she does, she can be dangerous.
So yeah, I mean, that is kind of a interesting way to look at it because she did have some kind of agency over her powers, but yeah, I mean, he's right. It's not, it's not something that she completely fully understood, obviously, because she loses them too and doesn't really know how to get them back or when they're going to come.
Well, and it was like she had been training them while she was with Brenner. They would take her into those rooms and she'd have to focus on like the
Right.
Coke can and
Yeah, it wasn't like just an innate power like Carrie woke up with one day and
right
kind of had. So
right.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and then you have like all the buildings that were destroyed.
Yeah, and that was the book and not the movie, right? Because I mean, in the book, like pretty much the whole town was destroyed, like Hawkins.
There's
was.
so many different versions of the movie. There's like 3 versions, I think. There's the original.
Yeah, I've only seen the original. I never saw the
one with Chloe Grace Moretz is actually really good, but I also think there was one in the 90s.
I think so too. Yeah, but
And it
I've
might
only
have
seen
been
the
Carrie
original one.
too. I don't know, but the one with
the
Chloe
Rage,
Grace.
right? Was it Carrie 2, The Rage or something like that?
Yes,
Wasn't
and
that what
I
it's called?
think
Yeah.
that was like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the one with Chloe Grace Moretz was an exact remake.
Okay.
And I know that at the end, some buildings get destroyed. Like
Yeah,
a lot of stuff.
The school does, but like it's not, in the book, it's like the whole town. I mean, the whole.
I think that more of it happens in the newer remake, though.
Okay, that could be, yeah.
Because
and then yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying. It's been forever since I've
I
read
haven't
the book.
I haven't read the book in like 30 years, and I haven't seen the movie in probably 15 years. But yeah, so I'm kind of.
It makes me uncomfortable. It's like one of those like I don't.
Oh,
like when
me
people
too. Yeah, no,
get
I
made
went
fun
back.
of.
Ahead of this, I went back and I watched Stand by Me again, which I'd seen a gazillion times, and Firestarter, which I hadn't seen in ages.
I've never seen Firestarter actually.
It's not great.
It never looked great.
It's not great. It is very cheesy. It's very 80s,
Yeah.
And I'm using special effects in air quotes. It is very kind of cheesy looking.
Yeah.
And some of the acting's kind of wonky. And I know I don't think Stephen King was very happy with it either when it came out, as I recall.
He's not happy with a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, he hasn't been happy with much of his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
he likes the TV version of The Shining. He prefers that one because he had it remade. He did not like Stanley Kubrick's version.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what he thought about. Do you remember what he thought about it? The new It, the one that we saw, the
I think he liked that.
Okay.
I want to say that he endorsed that one.
Okay.
And he probably endorsed Stevie, if you're listening, which I hope you are. But
that'd be nice.
I think he endorsed even the one with Tim Curry.
But that was good though. I kind of like that one.
It's just such a hard book to
It
adapt to
is. It's
screen. It has a
ridiculous. Yeah.
lot of cosmic horror, which
Well,
people
and
don't realize.
that's my problem with 11/22/63 too, which is my all-time favorite
Oh
Stephen King
yeah.
book.
Yeah.
Because I was very excited for the Hulu adaptation with
Mm-mm.
James
I knew.
Franco.
I knew I finished, I
But
made sure I read the book before I even turned it, and I went in
yeah,
knowing I wasn't going to like it.
yeah, it was very disappointing. But
Well, it's because that guy they had to add that extra character
yeah, yeah,
so that he could
kind of
like
his inner monologue.
verbalize his
Yeah,
inner
exactly.
monologue.
Yeah. So and wrapping up Carrie, there's obviously the character named Billy
Billy.
who tries to run her over with a car, which is very similar to Billy trying to run everybody over with his car.
Yeah.
Nancy and Jonathan in the mall parking lot. So number 3 on our list is actually it. Um, not only the general plot, which is, young kids banding together to kind of
Mhm.
fight evil and, the whole losers club versus the party and all that kind of stuff. But it kind of rears its head a couple times in the show. Um, when Joyce goes out in the flashback in the first season to Castle Byers, in the first episode actually, and sees Will and wants to take him to go see Poltergeist. And
Yeah.
she's worried that he's going to get scared. And he says, I don't get scared like that anymore. And she says, oh, yeah, not even of clowns, which is obviously a
Yeah.
reference to.
No, I disagree with you. I don't think it's a reference to it. I think it's a reference to that freaking clown and Poltergeist.
Well,
Because
that
she
too,
just
but
said,
which is what I kind of thought too, but I don't think she'd seen it yet. And I don't know if she would have known about the clown being in Poltergeist.
was it in the trailer?
I don't know. I don't remember. I was going to go back
You
and
know
look at
that
the
clown
trailer.
really, there was a malfunction and it really choked that kid, right?
No,
Yes.
I didn't know that. Really?
Yes. There was all
Oh,
sorts
wow.
of weird stuff that happened on the set of
That was
Poltergeist,
that was a very
that
weird.
clown, when he's choking him,
Yeah.
the kid's really panicking because
Oh, really?
like something happened and it was like really choking him.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the Duffers talking about its influence.
We already were deathly scared of clowns, and that just pushed it over the edge. Couldn't sleep for a couple weeks, the most scared I've ever been in my life. It's an incredible book. It's really about these kids and their friendship, and how by working together, uniting, and through the strength of their friendship, they're able to overcome this incredible interdimensional evil.
Yeah, and then obviously later on in the series in season 2, there's the famous scene with Bob Newby in the car talking with Will about Mr. Baldo.
Yeah.
I was a little younger than you, standing in line for the Ferris wheel at the Rowan County Fair. And suddenly, I feel this fat white glove tap me on the shoulder. I spin around, and there he is, Mr. Baldo. Hey, kiddo, would you like a balloon? Go ahead, laugh. It's funny. It wasn't funny back then, I can tell you that.
No, indeed.
No, and God bless Bob Newby's heart.
I know,
So
right?
innocent.
But yeah, I mean, that's obviously straight,
that's
Pennywise. I mean, clearly, the whole balloon and everything like that. And then we also, I remember we talked about it at the time too, in season 3, when Max and Elle go to Heather's parents' house and they're in their rain jackets and Elle is in the yellow raincoat, which is kind of like little Georgie in it too. I remember we were talking about that. But then
Stop
also
shaking your leg.
Oh, sorry. But then also the original show pitch, going back to the Bible, the Duffers originally wanted to do or envisioned kind of doing a standalone season every 10 years, which is also very reminiscent of it. And the Duffers said in the Bible, the hypothetical sequel will take place in the same town only 10 years later in the summer of 1990. Our kids will now be young adults with new lives, new problems. Many of them will have moved out of Montauk, spread out across the country for school and work. So obviously that, comes.
Yeah, I can't believe they weren't like, this has been done before.
Yeah, right.
But I guess if you think about it,
there's homage and then there's copying, and where's the
but I guess
line?
if you think about it though, the newer version of it chapter 1 hadn't come out yet when this.
True.
So
that's right. Yeah.
In the original, they put them all together. The whole thing was one. It was like part 1 and part 2, a TV movie.
Yeah, they kind of went back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I get more. I know what our number 1 is for Stephen King influence, but I get more It vibes than our number one, which we'll get to. But
Yeah, because I mean, just the general tone of, number one we get in there is not really, it's not horror. It's not,
Mhm.
and it is very clearly horror, and Stranger Things is very clearly horror, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I can totally see that, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
I was thinking more like number of comparisons we can draw, and there are a lot more to our number one
Yeah, that's true.
than there were to it. But yeah, the general tone and the general vibe, is much closer to it than it is to anything else from him, I think.
Oh, okay. So number two is Firestarter. And again, you have a young girl with telekinetic powers, and she's like the subject of these experiments. They have the shop.
Yeah, as opposed to the lab, the guys in the white coats and they
Yeah.
drive white utility vans around and stuff.
Yes. And then the very obvious similar, which I feel like this happens a lot with people with any sort of telekinetic powers, their nosebleeds.
Yeah, blood is somehow involved, right? When you have
Always. Well,
telekinesis.
it's always a nosebleed
Right. Yeah.
whenever they're trying to use their power.
Yeah.
They have the whole like labs, computers, and electrodes on the head, like they do with Charlie. That's
Yeah.
her name, right? Charlie.
Yep. Yep.
And Firestarter. You got Tangerine Dream on here, but I cannot.
Oh yeah,
think
the music. The Tangerine Dream did the music
Yes,
for Firestarter,
which
and
I-
the Duffers pulled in Tangerine Dream, several times during the season. It's not a direct link, obviously, but it's just kind of the vibe of that kind of cheesy 80s
all I
syntho
think of
pop
with
kind of
Tangerine
music.
Dream is that movie Legend.
Also,
Tom
yep,
Cruise.
same genre. It's all kind of that same kind of
Like,
music.
didn't they do like the entire soundtrack for that film?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they did the entire soundtrack for Firestarter too. But they've been in like 2 or 3 episodes of Stranger Things. They've had songs
Yeah.
kind of in there. And then there was, I think it was in season 1, they kind of did that whole series of homage posters kind of for Stranger Things to make it look like other, similar movies from the 80s. They did the Goonies
Yeah, I
one
remember.
with Steve kind of hanging on, like in Goonies
Oh
and
yeah. And then they did the one of Elle.
yeah, and they did one for Firestarter, and in the style of Firestarter, so that was kind of in there too. So, but let's here's the Duffers talking about Firestarter's influence.
Firestarter was a big reference specifically for 11 in the case that you've got a young girl that has these incredible powers. She's on the run from the government. And we also looked at Firestarter in terms of sort of the backstory for 11 and how she could possibly get these powers.
So those are our top 4 so far. Would you want to talk more about Firestarter?
No, I was trying to say that the Duffers sound just like Joe Keery.
Yeah,
They
they kind of
sound
do actually.
exactly alike.
Yeah. So some bonus little Stephen King things that we found that were kind of pop up here and there throughout Stranger Things. Lucas obviously uses the wrist rocket, and that parallels. Can't remember who had it in it. Was it
Richie?
Richie had the slingshot in it.
No,
No, it wasn't Richie. It was
Richie had the baseball bat.
it was George's brother.
Oh, Bill.
Thank you. Had the slingshot in it.
Colin and I are old, and we are experiencing memory loss.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah.
The episode title for season 1, episode 4 was The Body, which was the original name of the novella, which became Stand By Me. There's that bit with Hopper we talked about, walking in on the cop in episode 4 of season 1, and the cop is reading Cujo, and Hopper says, "Hey, I love that book. It's a nasty mutt." And then the whole idea of actually the demo dogs being kind of like a dog that's, kind of going.
And also, David Harbour hated the dog on set.
Exactly. Yep. The Mist, which Stephen King wrote, is kind of a very similar plot. The government
Also real
experiment gone
depressing.
wrong. Yeah, exactly. With alien creatures that have tentacles and they're big, and it's a whole government conspiracy kind of thing. At one point, Bob suggests moving to Maine, which obviously Stephen King is famously from Maine and lives there in Bangor. There's the Christine vibes with Billy and his car. There's graveyard shift vibes with the rats in the textile mill, as opposed to the factory that was in Graveyard Shift. In Skeleton Crew is the monkey with the symbols toy is on the cover of Skeleton Crew, and it's about that toy being kind of like a talisman kind of thing. And then
Wait, was that in a
And then
Oh,
Dustin
when
when
Dustin's
Dustin has one when he comes home from camp at the beginning of season 3, and
Mhm.
Elle animates all his toys, and one of them is
Yeah.
the monkey clapping. There's a fire starter poster hanging on the wall in Family Video when Robin and Jonathan go in to apply for jobs. And then obviously in the last episode, Lucas is reading the Talisman, Stephen King's book, to Max in the hospital. And that's all about, I think that's kind of where the Duffers got their whole idea of the upside down, with the territories and kind of the flipped alternate dimension and all that kind of stuff. So those are just some bonus things.
yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. When you put it all together and you talk about it in the course of a half an hour,
Well,
that's
but
what I'm saying. It kind
Stephen
of blurs
King,
the line between homage and outright,
but Stephen King's library is just
oh, it's so ridiculous. Yeah. There's so
there's
many.
so much. They could have
Yeah.
drawn. I don't know how anybody
Well, I
comes up with
remember 10 years ago when he had 10, 15, 20 years ago when he had his accent and he's like, I'm not writing any books anymore. And he's written like 30 since then. I'm like, yeah.
You know what the
It's just
only
kind of
thing I
crazy.
think of when I remember his accent is that he was in remember that weird movie Monkey Bone with
No.
Brendan Fraser
Mm-mm.
and Elizabeth Hurley? I think she
No.
was in it. Stephen King shows up, like he gets it, like the main character gets in an accident and he wakes up in this crazy like limbo purgatory, and Stephen King's there.
Huh.
And he's actually in the movie, and he's like,
I don't think I've ever saw it. I don't really remember hearing about it actually, but I may have. I don't know. But yeah, I've
it's the
certainly
only
haven't
thing
seen
it
it.
reminds me of. Like when
Huh.
I think about his accent, is that he was in that weird,
Like before his accident, or was it like
no, it was after his
it was
accident.
after
So
the
it was
accident?
like he was making fun of it.
Oh
Like,
wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
if I'm
know.
not mistaken.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll have to look that up.
maybe it
Jeez.
was just a fever dream that I've had, but no, I'm positive that
Could be.
happened. Like he's in it, and I remember being like, "That's, I don't know, it feels a little soon, Steve."
Yeah, right.
But because he like
Okay.
almost died.
Oh, he was very, very close to death. Yeah. And he was ripshit about it too, because the guy was a drunk driver and he was just, Stephen was just walking down the road and got completely and he
Yeah,
actually, I remember he bought the van afterwards and had it sent to the scrap heap or something, or burned it or blew it up or something. He did something. He bought the van himself, the van that hit him,
yeah,
and destroyed it. Essentially,
yeah.
yeah,
And I
he
remember
was.
thinking he was like, I mean, when was that? Wait, do you remember what year that
Yeah,
was?
I was gonna. I can look it up actually as we're sitting
I mean,
here.
we can look it up, but
Let's see, Stephen King, a wiki. And his accident would be career, personal life. There we go. Married, longtime fan, King and his wife, voracious reader, blah, blah, blah. King published, oh, good Lord. It's just car accident and aftermath. There we go. June 19th, 1999. He was walking on the shoulder of Main State Route 5 in Lovell, Maine, and the driver, distracted by an unrestrained dog moving in the back of his minivan, struck King, who landed in a depression in the ground about 14 feet from the pavement.
so he wasn't drunk?
I guess he wasn't drunk. I thought he was. Earlier reports at the time, he was distracted, certainly. Claimed King was hit from behind, and some witnesses said the driver was not speeding, reckless, or drinking. But it's clearly reckless if he's distracted by the dog. But the guy was later arrested and charged with driving to endanger and aggravated assault. He pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of driving to endanger and was sentenced to 6 months in county jail, which was suspended, and had his driver's license suspended for a year.
Maybe that's why Stephen King kills all the dogs in the movies, in his books.
That could be. Yeah.
Also, Stephen King was not in Monkey Bone. It was a lookalike. He was supposed to make a cameo appearance. It was unavailable on the day it was to be shot. So it wasn't a fever dream.
Okay. Well, that's good at least.
Yeah.
I'm glad you weren't having fever dreams. So
no.
Okay, moving on to
number
one, which is clearly Stand By Me. Obviously, the general plot again, we have 4 young kids at the center of it. Which is also very similar to the plot of Dreamcatcher, which I could have put in the bonus little things, but same idea, kind of the coming of age stories.
They were adults.
It's a kind of a coming of age thing where they start as kids and it kind of flashes back and all that kind of stuff, and they confront evil. But obviously the train track scenes are kind of right out of Stand By Me. The first one in episode 5 of season 1, when the party is out looking for Will, and Elle leads them astray and makes their compasses mess up. And then obviously in season 2, episode 6, when Steve and Dustin have the, the Farrah Fawcett, conversation. So here's the Duffers talking about Stand By Me.
Sort of our most direct nod to it is when we have, well, in season 1 and 2, we have characters sort of walking down these train tracks, which is, that was a big part of Stand By Me, as they were following the train tracks to the body. So that's probably our most direct homage to that classic.
Yeah, and the issue here too is I just watched Stand By Me again with the lens of Stranger Things on, so everything, you're like, that's just like Stranger. Oh, that's just like, I mean, the kids are 12 going on 13, just like Stranger Things. It takes place in a small town, just like Stranger. So everything all of a sudden starts kind of resonating. I also kind of latched on to the whole dynamic between Denny and Gordy in Stand By Me, the older brother, younger brother, and then Jonathan and Will in Stand By Me. And actually, so here's a clip from that scene, which, I mean,
Denny's dead in Stand By Me, though, isn't he?
He is, yes, but they had that.
How did he
flashback.
die? Suicide?
No, it was a car accident. It wasn't his fault. He was in a car accident, hit by a car, or something like that. It was not. It was nothing that he did wrong, because he was the golden boy of the town. He was the quarterback, the high school hero quarterback. But
John Cusack played him in the movie, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, the scene it could very easily have been a scene right out of Stranger Things with Jonathan and Will. So here's that scene this is Denny and Gordy in Stand By Me.
Hey, Gordy, I got something for you. This, my friend, is for you.
This is your Yankee cap.
No, this is your Yankee cap. It's a good luck cap. You wear that cap, you know how many fish we're gonna catch?
How much?
Brazilian fish. And it looks good on you, too, just like that.
Hey, Mom, I'm going blind.
Hey, don't start with me, porcupine. Come here. Give me a hug.
It's just kind of that whole vibe, the conversation that Jonathan and Will had about the, the music and, that kind of stuff. So that kind of hit me at the same time. There's also obviously a lot of references to nostalgic things, like the music of the time. It obviously takes place in the 50s and Stand By Me versus the 80s, but, the kids reading comic books and stuff like that. There's a junkyard in both. Obviously we have the junkyard scenes in season 1 and season 2. There's bullies with switchblades. You got, Troy out at the quarry with the switchblade threatening Dustin, and, Ace has the switchblade in Stand By Me. There's the whole idea of lard ass being, kind of the pejorative term, which, they had the whole scene in Stand By Me with the pie eating contest. And
it makes me like that scene scarred me.
Oh, I know.
Like,
here's the there. It's on my soundboard now. I can play it anytime I want.
Yeah, you guys, Colin has me recorded doing that. So now I don't even have to make the sound. He can just add it in whenever I feel like I'm going to vomit.
And then just like Firestarter, they had the homage poster. It was kind of in the style of Stand By Me with the 4 kids and that kind of stuff. And then, which I thought was really interesting, and I don't think I knew, or if I did, I forgot, that Dacre, when he auditioned to be Billy, did the scene of Ace when they get to the end of the movie and they find the body, spoiler alert, the monologue that Kiefer Sutherland gives as Ace is what Dacre did in his audition to get the part of Billy, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then the Duffers also, when they were, brought the kids in before they cast the show, used scenes from Stand By Me for the callback auditions. And they were saying that they were pretty sure that a lot of the kids hadn't even seen the movie at that time. But, obviously have sense and, understand the influence. But yeah, so they, instead of, using their own script, which was kind of still in development, they actually use, sides from Stand By Me for the auditions, which I thought was kind of interesting too. So,
well, and Stephen King, they like to do the little Easter eggs, like they name drop Stephen King, or they do the movie posters and stuff, like, which Stephen King loves himself. And what is it, like inner universal? Like,
yeah, like everything kind of,
because Ace is a character. He's also in Needful Things,
right? Yeah,
because they're all like there's
and everything taking place in Castle Rock or Derry, and then
they all like crossover.
The kids from It showing up when what's
in
his face
11/22/63.
he goes to Derry and sees the kids from It, so yeah, which is kind of neat. It's kind of
I love it when they do stuff like that,
Easter eggy kind of stuff. So So yeah, anything else from us, or do you want to start to, we can get into some emails
I think
and
it's time to get into some emails.
alrighty.
I'll take the first one. It is from Megan, and she says, "Hey, Colin and Whitney. Sorry I haven't been emailing in a while. I'm finishing up my final year in nursing school, and needless to say, I've had some studying to do. Don't worry, I've been listening to every pod when they drop. When I heard you guys were doing a Stephen King episode, I knew I had to tell you the story between my mother and I that happened a few years ago. When the 2017 It came out, we watched it in theaters together. Immediately after the movie I came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, mom, can you believe it? They totally ripped off straight off the Stranger Things vibe. How ridiculous." My mom was like, "Meg, please, this story is older than you are. Stranger Things actually draws on it." So yeah, I was a smidge embarrassed, but I'm sure the Duffers would be honored to know that I thought Stephen King tried to copy them.
Yes.
Unrelated, but I was doing a rewatch. And I just have to say, although the piggyback is a masterpiece, the fade to black and 2 days later screen is cruel. How come we don't get to witness Steve collecting a heartbroken Dustin next to Eddie? How come we don't see Max entering the ER with Lucas and Erica rushing at her side? How the heck did the upside down crew return to the right side up without any townsperson witnessing them and being like, hello, did I just see Nancy Wheeler crawl out of a dark hole in the middle of the road? I surely hope they show some of that in flashbacks next season, but I fear they won't, and I just feel snubbed. Signing off, Megan.
Yeah, those are good. I
thought-
mean, yeah, I can kind of, some of those things would have been kind of neat to see. There's, the whole rest of the trip of the Cali crew coming back across the country, and what were they talking about and what were they
I
doing?
feel like
But
they purposely didn't show Steve getting Dustin because they didn't want to have another look at Eddie's body so that people would still keep talking about
Right.
whether or not he'd be back in season 5.
That's
It's
true.
like it's a little marketing ploy to
Yeah.
keep everybody talking.
Yeah. And then we get the set pics from this year showing Eddie's grave with his name on it. So
Right, like one of the first ones
that was one of the
released.
first things that got leaked,
Like,
or,
come
that the Duffers put
on.
out, was like, here's Dustin standing in front of a grave that says Edward Bunsen.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
next email's from our buddy Harry. Hello, Whitney and Collin. Stranger Things may be full of specific King references. The author himself recently mentioned the Carrie-like bullying and the Rinkomania, but what's most interesting to me is the tone. When his work is successful, King's stories focus on citizens within the context of their community, facing down a powerful supernatural evil. If there's an institution involved, the cops, the government lab, a corporation, whatever, they're either the main antagonist or a secondary antagonist. I think it's a very 80s idea to have horror stories that focus on normal people, even if those people have some kind of paranormal ability. Firestarters Charlie and Andy McGee may have powers, but they're ordinary people on the run from a bad government lab. That changed in the 90s. We started getting highly trained professional ghost and monster fighters like shows like The X-Files. Even Supernatural's Sam and Dean have been highly trained for the work they do. They aren't people with ordinary lives. They don't have friends to hang out with or loved ones who need their help or a bestie to cheer them up. The trope is that their life of monster fighting is too dangerous for them to be ordinary members of a community, even though characters inside their community are so appealing. However, it does make the storytelling so much better if you have a Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, handy to open a book and explain the goals and weaknesses of the monster of the week. I can't help but wonder if this is a sign that King was a young adult in the counterculture 60s and remained an anti-institutionalist through the 80s and beyond. Best, Harry in Seattle.
I feel like that is a sign. I feel like that is a sign that Steve was a young adult in the counterculture 60s.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, he clearly was. I mean,
Well, he was, but I'm
yeah.
saying like he had that attitude.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he's very, I feel like Stephen King's work is always very focused on the underdog and the outsiders of the group.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Never writing about like the popular kids.
No, it's never.
That's
it's
part
never
of his
like
charm.
Yeah, like your traditional kind of, the fairy tale with the hero and the princess and that kind of stuff. That's not at all the kind of stuff he does. So
No.
yeah, it's always somebody. It's always kind of a stranger in a strange land kind of idea, or somebody who's kind of an outsider looking in, or fish out of water, that kind of thing. So yeah.
And I feel like it's all like there are a couple of exceptions, obviously, like Carrie and the Firestarter. But for the most part, it's almost always in King's work, it's always a little boy having to he ends up being the hero somehow.
Right.
And he has to deal with all these adult themes, I feel like.
Yeah.
In desperation.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to think about this. Oh, microphone. It is because Carrie was the first book he wrote, and that
Mm-hmm.
is from the point of view of a woman. And there's a lot of talk about, menstruation and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's a very, feminist kind of,
Yeah.
leaning book. But yeah, since then, a lot of his stuff has been little boys or, young men or, even older men, thinking like The Outsider or 11/22/63 or,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But yeah, that's kind of interesting thought. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Harry. Next up, we got Luca, and they say, "Hey guys, sorry I couldn't email in for the last episode. I just didn't have time to order or do research on the Montauk Show Bible, but I really wanted to. What have you guys been up to lately? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. We're just
No.
waiting around." Anyways, here are some of my favorite ways Stephen King influenced Stranger Things in no particular order. Number one, the font. The font for Stranger Things is it's very similar to the font of Carrie, Cujo, and so many more. Number two, the possession idea, mainly from season 2 and 3, reminded me of the possession of Jack in The Shining. Number three, the walk on the railroad tracks. Come on, guys. Did nobody get any Stand By Me vibes? Everybody got Stand By Me
We all
vibes.
got Sam Raimi vibes. Yep.
Elle's psychic powers are similar to Firestarter Carrie in The Shining. Bob's number five is Bob's Fast with the Kirby Clan makes you think of the kids in it, even if it was just for a dream. Even if it was just a dream for Bob. Also, you guys probably already know that the amazing Finn Wolfhard is in the It movie. And number six, 11 nosebleeds are just like Andy McGee's in Firestarter.
Yep.
Have a great rest of your day and month. Best, Luca.
Next one's from Ellie. Hey, Colin and Whitney, how are you? Okay, so I'm ashamed to say that I know shockingly little about Stephen King, other than having watched Stand By Me and loving it and reading half of Salem's Lot. That's it. Okay, Colin, so here's a test for your memory. Obviously, I don't expect you to remember since it was a full-on year ago, but okay. So in about a month is the Greek Halloween. So here's the test. Dearest Colin, this is why I read Ellie's emails.
Yeah.
We had that, yeah. So how are Apokrios and Cycnopempti pronounced? I guess Whitney can guess too. I think that's what I think it's Apokrios, Apokrios, I think. And
Oh, see, I didn't know that
I
there was
think that's
the
what it
S
is.
sound at the
Yeah,
end, like
Apokrios.
S.
And then it's Ticnop. It's like it's
Yeah,
TS.
Cycnopempty.
Cycnopempti. So we'll see how I did. I'm not really sure. We'll see.
We'll see. We
Yeah.
can't go back and look.
Sorry, this was a short email, but I've literally had zero news or things to contribute about Stephen King. So anyway, bye. Talk to you next month. Ellie.
Okay, next up we got Nate, and he says, "Hello, strangers. I'm only familiar with it, so I look forward to hearing about Stephen King's culture-changing work. From it, I think they drew a lot from the tone and style. I have a question for both of you. What movies do you think are most similar to it in structure, style, or characters? Top three, please. Or P.S. The Zoom time and day works great. Can't wait. Thanks, Nate. Colin, you've got yours ready.
Yeah.
What are your
Stupid microphone. It keeps falling over. I think I'm getting tangled in the cord here. Yeah, so I kind of thought, obviously if somebody's going to ask me, I really liked it. What should I watch next? I mean, I'm going to say Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But then I was kind of looking through my old movie reviews that I used to do and kind of, and Super 8
Definitely.
caught my eye. And if you guys have not seen that,
I love that movie.
It's a phenomenal movie in its own right. I really need to see it again. It's been a good 10 years since I've seen it.
I feel like people, it doesn't get, I don't think it, I think it got terrible reviews.
Yeah,
I don't think it got great reviews or anything. And I love that movie.
I think I got kind of ignored, but again, it's the general gist is young kids dealing with, alien invasion kind of stuff. And, kind of supernatural evil and that kind of thing, but super good. Really, really, really well done.
Yeah. Kyle Chandler's in it.
Yeah. And yeah, I was looking at the cast and there's a bunch of kids.
The kids in it there's a lot. Like if you've seen The Kissing Booth.
Yes.
I forget I haven't seen the movie. I just know he's in it. It's not Jacob Elordi. It's the younger brother.
Yeah.
He's in The Kissing Booth.
There was somebody else in it too that I was thinking.
And the kid that turns into a zombie, the real funny one.
What's her face is in it too.
Elle
Fanning.
Elle Fanning.
Yeah.
She's in it.
And AJ Michalka's in it. And
she's the older sister.
Kyle Chandler, Noah Emmerich, the adults, Bruce Greenwood. But yeah, it's a very, very good, very underrated and kind of overlooked and kind of forgotten movie, but that's really good. So I thought of that one immediately. So that's kind of my top one with a bullet. And then I also thought, obviously, kind of Nightmare on Elm Street kind of has that vibe as far as looking at kind of kids, dealing with, I mean, you're kind of stretching. And, the same thing, I also mentioned the Lost Boys, it's younger
I mean, pretty
kids.
much any
Um,
horror movie I feel like in the 80s was dealing with, it was mostly any slasher, you're going to focus on
Yeah.
teenagers
I mean, even
pretty
shows like
much.
Buffy and Angel, it's kind
Hmm.
of the same, it's younger kids or younger adults,
Or
kind of
Buffy the
dealing.
Vampire Slayer. That's actually the
Yeah.
movie, not the series.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. So, um,
Um, and then you said Lost Boys, which
yeah. Yeah,
stop
such a good
it.
movie.
Mine, I only came up with two, but Monster Squad, and I don't even remember when this came out. I just remember I watched it when I was little, and it has the famous line,
Yeah.
Wolfman's got nards. That's all I think of. Um, I don't, I know it
That
makes me
was
cry.
that was like 87, I think, right? Something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
was real little.
Yeah.
Um, and I could not tell you if it's appropriate because Brenda was letting me watch whatever, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So I know, and it was the 80s, so I don't know what's in it, but it was aimed towards kids. It was marketed
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
kids.
kind of there's
It's
some
basically
comedy,
like
there's
all
comedy
the
bits in it. Yeah.
yeah, all the classic horror movie monsters, like
Yeah.
uh, what's the word I'm looking for? They like pop up in this town and they're like terrorizing it. So you got Frankenstein, the Wolfman,
Yeah.
Mummy,
Yeah.
Dracula,
Yeah.
all of them. It's actually really funny,
Yeah. And you
and
said
very
that
touching.
that also made me think of it was a couple years ago. It was Dylan O'Brien. I think it was called like Love and
Love and
Monsters.
Monsters.
Yeah. Also kind of
Love that.
it was a very good movie too.
I
That also got
love
kind
that
of
movie.
overlooked. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
watched it a couple nights ago because
Yeah.
it's on Netflix right now.
Oh, fun.
Um,
I'll have to check it out.
yeah, and the dog lives. So
That's a good thing.
yeah. And the other one I picked, and it actually has a Stranger Things star in it, and I just watched these last week, was the Fear Street trilogy. It
One
was
and a half Stranger Things stars, actually. Yeah. Because isn't Maya in it
oh yeah, Maya's in it.
briefly?
She's
Yeah.
in it briefly. And then Sadie is the star of the
Yeah.
second one.
Yeah.
They're very gory and they have some very explicit scenes
Yeah.
in them, especially the second one.
Yeah.
But it's
But
teenagers.
there's also kind of a fun vibe to it too. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's not, I mean, it's not
It
comedy,
is,
but
but
it's
the Fear Street 1978 is like
that's the
there's
second one.
there are two
Yeah.
very explicit sex
Oh,
scenes,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
nudity.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
No,
completely
I'm not
forgot that was in
saying,
there.
rush right out and see these,
No,
but
no, no. I
yeah,
just was warning for the littles, like if
yeah,
they're like
yeah,
they're rated R. They're like
yeah,
and it's like 80s R
yeah,
slasher
right.
is what it reminds me of. But
Yeah.
they were
But
very good.
they were very good. Yeah. And then similar to it. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And if you like that, if you can't see the movies, just go read the books because the books are fabulous. I was obsessed with that series when I was
Oh, that's
little.
right. Yeah, I forgot about the books. Yeah, I never did read them.
Oh yeah, they were so like if you Goosebumps became more popular, but Goosebumps was like for the younger group. And
Right.
then you had like Fear Street, which was all high schoolers. And
Yeah.
man, Friday night, and again, Brenda, Friday night, you would take me to the local bookstore and I would get like 2 or 3 books like to buy and bring home.
Yeah.
And mom would get annoyed because she'd be like, you'd have one read by the time we got home.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't help it. I just love to read.
Yeah.
You should be happy.
Actually, it just as I went to get my drink, I wanted to get my Lego. I saw my Lego
Oh
thing.
yeah. I
So
love the little
yeah, so my mom got
the
this for me.
Spidey.
So it's knockoff Legos. It's not like real Legos, but it's obviously the buyer's house and then the van flip and then the Mind Flayer over Family Video and Hawkins Lab with the Rift in it, and then Starcourt Mall with the little delivery van up front, and then Max's grandfather clock, and then the Creel House all boarded
Does
up.
the
So
buyer's house have the upside down buyer's house
yeah,
underneath it?
yeah. So
Oh, I see.
it's kind of it's plants, and so it's the buyer
Gotcha.
house kind of upside down, and then
Have you seen
yeah,
the
so you
real
can
deal Lego one?
yeah, which is
It's
it's now.
insanely expensive.
Oh, I know. It's like discontinued because, so you have to like special order it or get it off like, eBay or something like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not a real thing. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that. So that was kind
I
of,
love it.
yeah, it's kind of fun. All right. Our last last Stephen King related email comes from Ryan. Says, "Hey, Colin and Whitney, it's Ryan again. I don't know if you all remember me, but when you all read my email, it was my birthday and the Zoom episode. I'm trying to email more, but I have been focusing on school and soccer, but I always try to listen. The first thing I want to say is, has anyone seen the Stranger Things 5 filming pictures yet? If you haven't, look up Stranger Things 5 Eddie's Grave." Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. It makes me so mad, and if you know, you know. But going on to the Stephen King topic, I love his movies so much and his books. My cousin got some of his books and is letting me read them, but my favorite is The Running Man, which I haven't read. I saw the movie, but I haven't read it. And I'm
Is that the movie
starting
with
to
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
yeah, with Richard Dawson. Yeah.
And they have to run
Yep.
constantly, like that's their
Yeah, it's like a human hunting kind of thing. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
hunting humans for sport kind of
Yeah.
idea. Yeah. I'm starting to like more of the horror movies, including Carrie, It, and The Shining, but I'm starting to like the other ones that aren't by him, like The Terrifier and Megan and the Black Phone, which is actually inspired by the movie It. It's also inspired by a lot of serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and how had a victim escape and how Ted Bundy lured his victims in and how John Wayne Gacy actually used a belt on some of his victims. So if you've all have seen The Black Phone, please tell me what you think, because this is my favorite movie right now. And also Robin and Gwen, the characters, and the actors are Miguel Cazares, Mora, and Madeline McGraw, are the best. If you recognize Madeline's name, it's because she is the older sister of Violet McGraw, who is Katie in Megan. So it comes full circle. And I will hear no further arguments about them. Anyway, really love y'all's show and can't wait to see the next episode. And hope you have a great day. Stay with us in the deep, dark void of waiting for season 5. P.S. Sorry, Whitney, if some of these movies freaked you out for your infamous gag reflex for gory scenes, especially with horror movies.
So actually, Ryan, I love horror movies.
Yeah,
and
no, that isn't what makes you make
more
that
me
noise.
than yeah, but it just depends. There's certain things I don't, obviously toes, don't
Yeah.
like anything to do with those, and
Yeah.
then I'm pretty good. Eyeballs, don't like anybody
No,
messing with the
eyeballs are
eyes.
gnarly. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, so I don't really like the back either. Like
Have you seen The Black Phone? I haven't. I'm aware
no,
of
I
it, but I
keep
haven't seen it.
meaning to, and it's popped up, and I always end up picking something else. I don't know why, but it
Yeah.
looks good. It's
Yeah.
got, is it Maya's dad in it? Isn't Ethan Hawke
Yeah,
in it?
Ethan Hawke is the lead in it. I think that's the movie I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen
Yeah.
Katie, or I've seen Megan,
Yes.
and I liked that.
Yeah.
The Terrifier, not for me. It's too
I haven't seen it.
just,
I don't know anything about it actually.
it's Art the Clown, and he's a murderer and he kills people, but it's just kind of,
Mm.
some people love it, but it's just like gratuitous gore
Okay.
to me, and I don't, it's like torture porn type shit.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that does it for Stephen King emails. We do have a couple
Yes,
extra
we have
ones.
a couple more.
So, yeah.
First up, we actually have a clip from Lauren, and she brought up the Harry Potter parallels in last month's episode. So we'll play that.
Okay. So she sent this to us.
Hey, Colin and Whitney. So my name is Lauren Barriger. So kudos to you, Whitney. You got it on the second try. I feel like that rarely happens. Thank you so much for reading my email on your podcast. I was running on my elliptical and I almost fell off because I was so, I guess, surprised that you read my email. I love your podcast a lot, and honestly, since I sent it, I thought of another parallel between Stranger Things and the Harry Potter franchise. Steve's deep dive reminded me quite a bit of Harry's deep dive in the water in the Triwizard Tournament in the 4th book and movie. So anyway, I really appreciate all that you all do on your podcast, and look forward to more content soon.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. That was nice to have you send that in. So, and we'll talk about the Zoom in a minute, but that's the kind of thing too. Also, we obviously want to, have you guys, Harriet, I think well, we haven't got to the email yet, but she was going to send something in too. So anyway, next email is from Mariette. Hello, Colin and Whitney. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mariette, 46 years old, and I live in a little corner of the world in New Brunswick, Canada. I recently found your podcast and almost caught up to the most recent one, and now will be in my own deep, dark void waiting for new episodes of your podcast, while we are all in the deep, 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 dark void waiting for seasons 5. While typing out this email, I'm listening to the top 5 best duos, and I have many duos, but in no particular order: Steve and Dustin, and Robin and Nancy, Joyce and Hopper, Elle and Max, Murray and Joyce, and Hopper and Elle. I think I cried more when Hopper and Elle reunited than when Eddie died, and I was a mess when that happened. I heard in a couple episodes ago that you're now on Instagram, so I started following you, and I know you weren't on top of that one, which is okay, but did you know that the account Stranger Things TV started a broadcast channel that every Friday posts teasers from the set? It's pretty awesome. I try to zoom in to see if I can see any Easter eggs. Thought it would be fun to bring this to your attention to have ideas for future episode discussions. Hope you have a fantastic day, everyone. Mariette.
Thanks, Mariette. Next up, we got my buddy, Harriet. She's back. She's back.
Hey, Harriet.
She says, hi, Colin and Whitney. I completely forgot to read all the original stuff for Stranger Things Montauk. I apologize so much. School started back up and my laptop killed itself again, and I'm on a spare, so I can't log in to see everything. So that also played havoc on my life. So this email is a little life update thingamajig. I joined the choir again, and we were singing stuff from the Barbie movie, so that's kind of fun. And in band, we got a Stranger Things medley with Should I Stay or Should I Go, Running Up That Hill, the theme song, Separate Ways, and Master of Puppets. That is awesome.
How do you medley those songs together? Good gracious. That would be fun
I'm
to
gonna
hear.
need a recording.
Yeah, we're gonna need to hear that, Harriet.
Yeah. It's very fun, and I'll definitely send a recording soon.
Awesome.
I'm also now back on the sports grind, and that's hurting a lot. I'm also turning 14 in 3 weeks. Oh my gosh, 14.
Oh my Lord.
I feel like you were 11. Wasn't she
You're
11?
growing up in front of our eyes, Harriet.
Wasn't she 11 when she started email?
I think so, yeah. 11 or just turned 12.
She's been
maybe,
with
or
us
something.
the whole time.
I know, right?
So that's also a massive thing. I'm getting older. It's so weird. And a weekend after, I'm seeing Taylor Swift in Sydney. That is super exciting.
That's awesome.
So I'm also preparing for that. My life is just very busy right now. It's also very weird now that I'm in year 9 and so much. Oh my God, she's in high school.
I know, right?
And so much more pressure is on us now as the year before senior cycle starts. But technically, we'd be the babies of high school in the US. That's also weird to me. We just have 2 schools. It makes life so much easier. So wait, so is year 9 still with the younger group?
Yeah.
So they don't have so 10th, 11th, and 12th?
10th, 11th, I think, yeah, 10th, 11th, 12th is
okay.
is high
I feel
school,
like
yeah.
they used to do that in the US. Like it used to be middle school used to go through 9th grade.
I know I had junior high, which is 7, 8, and then high school was 9 through 12, but that's all I've ever known. But I don't know. Yeah, I think obviously
I
you know.
did 6th through 8th as middle school, but Evie did just 7th and 8th.
Yeah. Graded 6 through 8 too. Yeah.
Yeah. She said, that's all I've got. Much love from Harriet. P.S. I was laughing so much when the whole who reads whose emails came up recently. I don't really care who. I just like listening to the podcast.
Right.
Well, you got me, Harriet.
That's
So
All
hope you
right,
like
last email before we bring it home is from Quinn in Iowa. Says, hey, y'all, it's Quinn. I don't think I've listened to any episode or emailed since like September or October, but I've really missed the podcast. I think I've just been trying to focus on school, but I passed with all A's this semester, so I'm really happy about all that. Oh, wait, we can play this. Hang on.
yeah.
Here we are. Where's my little sound? I know it's here somewhere. Oh, good Lord. Is it not on here somewhere?
Where is it?
I have an applause sound, but it's not here.
I know.
I got the drum. That's not it.
No.
Where's my applause? Got laughter.
Man.
Oh, this is bumming me out.
That would have
Well,
been perfect.
we'll play it next week for you, Quinn. I used to have a little applause sound effect on here somewhere. I don't know where it went. I think when I was putting in all the sound clips, it kind of
Oh, you probably had to
I
take some off.
moved it around or deleted it by accident. But we have this,
Mike! I found a chocolate bunny!
which is one of my favorites.
Colin
So
is like a little kid on
I know
Christmas morning with the
it's my new
soundboard.
favorite. It's my new favorite toy. Yeah. Since October, I've become obsessed with Wham, George Michael, and Renee Rapp. For Christmas, I got lots of Taylor Swift merch, a season 4 Dustin, Funko Pop, Converse, AirPods, and some other stuff. By the time the new episode comes out, I'll have my driver's permit, and I'm really nervous for that, but I'm also pretty excited. Anyway, I really loved the new episode and thought it was so cool because I never knew any of that. For the next episode, I want to say I'm a huge fan of Stephen King, but I'm not really. I've seen Stand By Me, Misery, and It, but I really do love those. Misery is probably my favorite. I tried reading it. And then also this one book with like a dragon or something. I have no honestly idea what it was. And I was thinking it must be Eyes of the Dragon, right? The 1984 book.
Is that part of the
No, it's not part of the Dark Tower. It's kind of a standalone, but he doesn't do a lot of, kind of fantasy kind of stuff.
But
So
people like my brother loves Stephen King, but he is obsessed with the Talisman and like Wolves of Calla and all. He loves all
yeah,
of
I've never
this.
read the Talisman, but
I can't get into him. I can't. I've tried.
I've
I
tried
can't.
Dark Tower a couple times, and
Yes, I can't do
could not
it.
get into that. Yeah, but I do want to read the Talisman and give that a shot. I haven't done that one yet. So, but Quinn says I couldn't make it through the first 100 pages of Eyes of the Dragon. So anyway, See you guys next episode. So that brings us to next episode, which we're going to try. Well, we're going to do, and we'll just see if nobody shows up or, whatever. It'll just be the
somebody
two of
will
us.
show. It'll just be us.
So we're going to be back on March 28th with the Zoom call, but that's when it's going to air. We're actually going to record it and want you guys to join us on Sunday, March 24th, which is Palm Sunday for those of you who celebrate or mark that date. So
Yes.
we will kind of send out emails to everyone and put it up on our socials and everything, just to remind people as we get closer.
What time are we thinking?
I think we're thinking noon Eastern time on Sunday, the 24th.
Wait. Can we switch it to Saturday then?
Saturday, the 23rd.
Sorry. I don't get out of church till
because
noon.
you have church, right?
Yeah.
I
was thinking we were doing it later in the day.
Yeah. So
okay.
Noon on Saturday, the 23rd. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. So not Palm Sunday, the day before. Saturday, the 23rd of March at noon Eastern. So that's kind of 5 o'clock England time, 6 o'clock further east in Europe time. Obviously 9 o'clock, kind of West Coast, Seattle, California, that kind of stuff. So we'll put it out there so you guys can figure it out, and we could send out a reminder or however we want to do it. But so we're gonna look for that on Saturday, March 23rd, noon Eastern. We'll do a Zoom call, and then it'll actually air on Thursday, the 28th. So there you go.
Yes.
If you can't be a part of it and want to, like Harriet mentioned, feel free to before the 23rd. So maybe sometime the week of March 17th, if you want to record a voice recording or a video recording or like a, Snapchat-y kind of TikTok-y kind of thing or whatever, we can air those actually during the Zoom call. So I think that's it for that, but we will obviously remind everybody and we'll post it everywhere so you guys
post it on the Discord. I feel like most people that will join will be in the Discord anyways.
Yeah. So there we go.
All right, that does it for this week. As always, if you like what you hear, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, really. But we'd love it if you left a review on Apple. Unless you're the person that said I spoiled things, then you cannot leave a review.
Right. Anybody
already
else
left one.
You're welcome.
You've already left one. We heard you.
Right.
Yeah, so you could do that on preferably on Apple. And then if you want to get hold of us, you can always email us at skipshoypod@gmail.com. You can find us on social at skipshoypod on Facebook and Twitter. And we have a lovely little Discord server that you guys can join and chat with other Stranger Things fans.
Oh, congratulations to Stefan, by the way.
Oh, yes, new baby.
New baby. Yes.
New baby. A new Stranger Things fan just made his way into the world.
That's right.
So, all right, guys, that does it for this week. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and I hope you tune in next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Stranger Things audio clips and official score are the property of Netflix. Incidental music by Blue Mount Score from Pixabay.